everyone listening to this has heard the business advice. It's 10 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to deal with or to keep your existing customers. It's the worst business advice in the world. And the reason it's the worst business advice or comment in the world is because none of those people ever actually tell us, how do I make that customer more valuable, right? Well, step one is you don't leave them out to dry once you've sold them. You stick with them. You build the relationship, because every customer, every sale has multiple facets of it. There's the next sale. There's the third sale. There's the fourth sale. There's the referral. There's the testimonial. There's the case study. There's the word of mouth. There's so much value that a customer brings. And yet we're far too often, we're addicted to the thrill of the chase and getting them, but we're not really focused on how to nurture and keep them and make them more valuable.
This is Outside Sales Talk, the best podcast for outside salespeople. I'm your host, Steve Benson, and we're here to chat with the world's top sales experts so that you can get their best sales tactics to level up your game. Welcome back to Outside Sales Talk. Today I have Noah Fleming with us, and we're going to discuss turning difficult clients into your best customers. Welcome to the show, Noah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So by way of introduction, Noah is an expert in all areas of customer relations. In under 5 years, Noah has helped his clients generate over $5 billion in word-of-mouth business and new revenue from their existing customers. He's also the author of 3 of the top customer service books, including Dealing with Difficult Customers, How to Turn Your Demanding, Dissatisfied, and Disagreeable Clients into Your Best Customers. And because of all that expertise in this, that's why we wanted to do a show on this. And actually, I didn't know anyone who had expertise in this, and so we found the best book on it, and then brought Noah here on to discuss it, which is really exciting.
I'm just going to jump right in here. One of the things that we say in the start of the book, and by the way, that was my third book. So I wrote that book with a co-author, a fellow by the name of Sean Veltman, who's a wonderful sales expert, colleague of mine. But one of the first things we say in that book is that there's actually no such thing as a difficult customer. I'm going to kind of throw you for a loop here, right? It's more about the ways that we deal with a customer that has some sort of challenge or problem and how we approach those problems or challenges. Now, I don't buy into the premise that every complaint is a gift and we should hug every customer. I just don't buy into that. There are some really bad, annoying customers. But again, there's ways that we can learn to deal with them better and more effectively, which will help us increase our sales and grow our revenue, which is what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess, how would you define a difficult customer then?
Well, I mean, in my first book, Evergreen, I talk about a couple different kinds of customers. So you have customers that have a legitimate problem, right? There's a legitimate challenge. They're legitimately upset about something. And then you have customers that are just going to complain for whatever reason. And so in the first book, I referred to these as hungry hippos and problem children. And so these are your 2 types of difficult customers. Now, I'm just looking at you. I'm going to guess we're kind of in the same age demographic. But if you remember the game growing up, Hungry Hippos, there was a game, right? And you smack the hippos as hard as you can, and they just grab the marbles, and whoever gets the most marbles win. Well, there's a lot of customers out there that are like hungry hippos, meaning they just want to keep taking from us. They want another discount. They want a cheaper price. They want a lower price here or there. They want this thrown in. They want that thrown in. These are your hungry hippos. How much more can I take? How much more can I get? And then on the flip side, you've got these problem children. And problem children are exactly like they sound. They're insatiable. They're never happy, regardless of how good you do, how great a product you have, how wonderful your service is. They're just never happy. So they're constantly complaining. So those are the 2 types that I say, look, you know what, we've got these customers. We're going to have to deal with them in different ways. But then you have customers, again, like I mentioned, that have a legitimate problem, a legitimate concern, a legitimate service issue that needs to be dealt with. So we can deal with all these customers in different ways. And sometimes This is really hard for some companies to understand. Sometimes you have to show them the door. Sometimes customers don't fit the profile of your type of company. So just give you a quick example. I used to work a lot with the hospitality industry, and one time I was there at a meeting with a number of staff, and this was a restaurant. They owned about half a dozen restaurants and a couple hotels, and the phone was ringing, and the manager looked at the phone during the staff meeting and said, "Oh, it's her." And everybody looked at each other and they all knew who they were talking about. Like, oh, it's her. And so one person said, well, I'm not getting it. And another person said, I'm not getting it. And another person after that said, well, I'm not getting it. And so it turned out this was a problem child, never happy, but very loyal and worth a lot of money to them on an annual basis. But yet she caused all these problems, all this grief, all this commotion, that when she came in, it impacted everything else. So even though on paper she was valuable and she drove revenue, she wasn't worth keeping around. And so we had to kind of find a way to tell her, you know what, your approach with our staff, the way that you treat people here is just not really fitting for us. And so I think we're going to suggest that we part ways. And they actually did this. And so it made a whole lot of difference, but that's not always possible.
Yeah, I've always struggled with this in my past and with really tough customers. If someone's just because a lot of people, they just are sociopaths or narcissists or have borderline personality disorder, or they're just a nightmare in some way, right? Like
Yeah.
they're never going to be they're just and it drags on your team. Your team hates dealing with them, but sometimes they're worth a bunch of money, right? I it's tough to know exactly what to do. I think one of the best things, if they are just a whiner and a pain in the butt, it's best to just give them to someone who can deal with them and be like, you're not allowed to talk to anyone except for this person. and and we'll just label them, in our CRM. So when the phone rings, like, do not answer, they're a problem. And unless they call directly into this person's line, then they'll answer. But we just firewalled them off, and a particularly patient and caring good human that automatically gets into heaven is the only person that, because my thought is, this person's a nightmare, but their whole team needs our software, has this problem. Like, it's not their fault that their boss is just kind of a maniac. Like,
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think there are going to be some cases where you're going to need to find a way to deal with them, right? That's the whole point. We're dealing with difficult customers. So there's a really simple rule that I follow. Any customer that is, rude, racist, vulgar, sexist, whatever it is, to any one of your employees, any one of your salespeople, any one of your staff, probably not worth keeping around. In the end, it's going to cause more harm than it is good. And so, it's going to create negativity in the culture. It's going to cause all these issues. But you're absolutely right. So those other cases, you're going to have to figure out, is this something we can deal with, or can we put Johnny, who's got a guaranteed ticket into heaven, onto dealing with them? And if we can, then that's the way to go. In this case, the example I shared before, there wasn't a way to do it effectively.
yeah.
And so, it was, you got to let them go. And sometimes you got to let go to grow. And we all know this.
Well, and I've I've seen it's been rare that it was, a racist customer or saying really rude things or something. Usually it's just kind of lack of gratitude and demanding, and like just kind of acting like everyone's their servant. What sometimes the person just needs to be fired, right? There's just no way around it.
Sure.
You're going to have to fire him. What framework or decision making process should a sales rep, or I guess more broadly, this is a company decision. So an organization who's writing the play for all their reps, what criteria or framework should they use to determine, should this customer be fired or should we just deal with them?
Well, so again, using the simplistic framework I just shared, are they rude? Are they vulgar? Are they sexist? Are they racist? In which case, that's part of our corporate policy, and they're not going to stay. The framework, I think, for the rest is can we deal with this person effectively? And perhaps it's just a matter of having a conversation with the customer. And so the way I approach my business, the way that everyone should approach their own business, is to treat relationships exactly like that. It's a relationship, meaning there's some give and there's some take. And sometimes we have to be willing to have those tough conversations with our customers and our clients, and say something like, the way that you've been dealing with our staff just really hasn't gone appreciated around here. We'd love if you could just, relax a little bit. We're trying our best to serve you. But if there's something really wrong with what we're doing, by all means, let us know. Sometimes you can just have that simple conversation. And like you said, the person may not realize that they're coming off like a total jerk. And so it's just a matter of having the guts to have those conversations with your clients, to say, look, this is a partnership. This is a partnership between two professional organizations. We're peers here. We need to work together, so I can help you and you can help me. And again, just being able to have those discussions is really, really useful. I recommend, again, training your staff and your people to deal with the really hard cases. So having a playbook, having a way for them to understand, these are our corporate policies. These are the types of customers we aren't going to tolerate. Amazon fires customers. Amazon will fire a customer for excessive returns. And these stories have been publicized in the past, right? They will tell a customer, you're just not fitting the profile of our right types of customers. We notice that you're returning these Blu-ray discs every third time you order them, and we've now suspended your account. These things happen, and so you have to think about your corporate policies. You have to think about what makes sense for your company.
Absolutely. Well, and I feel like uh, I love what you're saying about having meaningful conversations with your customers to try to really understand each other or to help them understand your perspective. And and sometimes I also think that you when you're in these interactions with a customer who is a constant squeaky wheel, sometimes it's because you don't understand the real problem behind why they're being so difficult or why they're so dissatisfied. Um, is it is it I feel like this communication can really get at what is that real problem so that you can actually learn from it and address it.
Well, one of the things I learned in my business from my business coach is that a great business thrives on trusting relationships, kind of like just what I just shared. I trust you, you trust me, and so if there's a lot of discontent after the sale, there's a good chance that early on in the sale we've missed a lot of the groundwork. We've missed a lot of building that trust. We've missed a lot of answering the client's objections or dealing with their concerns. Sometimes we rush through to try and get the sale, and sometimes we're able to do that. But because we've rushed through and we haven't tackled all of these things early on, then there can be this built up animosity, this built up, distrust, this built up, is this company really out to help me, or are they just trying to take advantage of me? So that's from the company side. From the other side, the simple question is, if you're a salesperson and you truly feel like there's something wrong, and you truly feel like the client is not happy about something, again, it comes down to communication. It comes down to being able to say, I sense there's something not right here, and I sense you're not happy about that. Can you just tell me what it is that's going on? Or the best customer service response of all time, in my opinion, is to simply say to the client without being condescending, you seem unhappy here. What can I do that would make you happy? What can I do here that would solve this situation? If you can say that in a genuine way, then it becomes easy to really get to the root of these problems.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is so spot on. It can be the expectation setting portion of the relationship, which often comes from a salesperson. Um, that kind of defines what is this relationship supposed to look like? How are we supposed to help one another? Um, and then later on, someone that's actually working with the customer, on the deployment team or on the ongoing relationship team, they're left with this disconnect between what the customer is expecting from an organization versus what the organization, what service or product they want to deliver or are set up to deliver. There can be a
That's the
disconnect there.
well, yeah, and I call that the expectations gap, and I wrote about that in my first book, Evergreen. It's the distance between, what the customer expects to get and what they actually get. And so we've all heard the phrases, over promise and under deliver. It's the wrong way to do it, right? We don't want to over promise and we don't want to under deliver. We want to minimize the gap as much as possible. So provide the customer with the excitement of what they're going to get. We can still hype up the benefits like we do as good salespeople. We can still talk about those things, but we don't want to go so far overboard that when it comes to delivery time, they go, huh, right? This is not what you sold me on. Or by the way, even worse, where did that salesperson go that sold me this? Because now I'm dealing with, Joe Schmo in the delivery team, and he knows nothing about what I promised. So there's all these little breakdowns in our business processes. Again, to me, it's a loop, right? And I call it the customer loyalty loop. It's understanding that there needs to be a seamless flow. If you're going to pass off a closed sale to the delivery team or to the customer experience team, it needs to be very carefully documented of what's been shared, what's been promised. It needs to be a seamless flow. And I think all too often, salesperson gets the sale, gets the commission, and is gone, right? Sayonara, see you later. I'm on to the next sale. And so it's this addiction to let's just continue to get more and more and more and more and more. We've got them. I'm done with that. I'm moving on. And it's a huge mistake, right? It's a huge mistake because there's so much great opportunity missed. You've all heard, everyone listening to this has heard the business advice. It's 10 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to deal with or to keep your existing customers. I'm sure you've heard some variation of that.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the worst business advice in the world. And the reason it's the worst business advice or comment in the world is because none of those people ever actually tell us, how do I make that customer more valuable, right? Okay, if it's truly they're worth 10 times more, how do I make them 10 times more valuable? Well, step one is you don't leave them out to dry once you've sold them. You stick with them, you build the relationship, because every customer, every sale has multiple facets of it. There's the next sale, there's the third sale, there's the fourth sale, there's the referral, there's the testimonial, there's the case study, there's the word of mouth. There's so much value that a customer brings, and yet we're far too often we're addicted to the thrill of the chase, and getting them, but we're not really focused on how to nurture and keep them and make them more valuable.
Yeah, what you're saying really resonates with me. We've at our company, Badger Maps, we that handoff period we've found to be so critical. The handoff from the salesperson to the sales engineer who's actually going to set someone up and get them in a free trial, and from the sales engineer to the customer success person who is in charge of the success of that customer and the management of that customer and the account management going forward. At a lot of companies, we see that being the same person all the way through, which I think is fairly inefficient because your salespeople end up spending all their time with existing customers because of the possibly because of the hungry hippo or the problem children problem. Now that we have those frameworks, but so I think there's a lot of value in breaking up your hunters and your farmers. Your hunters being your salespeople, your farmers being the people dealing with your existing customers. But one thing that we did at Badger, we found that the handoff from sales to and as a sales engineer, and then from the sales engineer to the customer success person was one handoff too many. It was too many touch points in like a crucial time of an organization, in their deployment effectively. And so what we did was we eliminated the sales engineer role, and the customer success person plays both the sales engineering role and the customer success role. So once a deal moves into the deployment stage, even though they're not a customer yet, we still have a customer success person running that part, and then that person will continue to run the relationship going forward. So we basically eliminated one handoff, which I think that, I think you want to think carefully about, you don't want too many handoffs or too few handoffs. You don't want
Well,
you don't want to have your hunters be farmers too, but you also, if you've got 5 types of hunters and farmers, maybe you want to think about only having 3, that sort of thing.
and if you think about what you did there, this is the crux of the majority of the work I do with my clients. If you think about what you did there, you built a process. You built a process for the handoff, and you treated it like an important process in your business. So every business listening to this today has some ridiculous process to get reimbursed for their lunch receipt, right? You've got to scan the receipt. You've got to take a picture of it. You've got to staple it to this form. You've got to fill it out. You've got to date it. You've got to give it to the CFO. CFO is going to sign off on it. You're going to get a check or whatever it is, however it works. We spend so much time building out these processes in our businesses for these things like filing an expense report, and yet we haven't spent the time to think about the handoff from sales to delivery. And you guys did it, and everyone needs to do it. But I'm working with clients and companies every day that haven't even thought about this stuff. It's just like a sales process or a referral process. Referrals and the act of generating referrals should be a process. It shouldn't be something that you just willy-nilly say, well, if we do a great job, then theoretically people will refer us. Okay, that you can say that, but we know it doesn't happen. People use net promoter score, which is NPS, and they get a bunch of 8, 9s, and 10s and wonder why they're not getting word of mouth business. Well, the reason why is because, yes, people say they will do something, but unless you treat it like a process and you ask them to do it, they are not going to do it. And so that's a whole other ball of wax, but that's my problem with things like that. We don't treat it like a process. We treat it like something that is just going to miraculously happen. Let's get the sale, let's get them off to delivery. We've done our job. They should refer us. But if you treat all those like a profit center, if you treat all those like an integral part of your business, just like filing an expense receipt, that's where the real magic starts to happen. And that's where you start to see some really great results.
And what are these actions that can turn a great customer into a dissatisfied customer or a critic of your organization, or vice versa? What are actions that you'd recommend that tend to turn an unhappy customer into a happy customer?
So again, some of the things we've talked about, right, is the expectations gap. If you're over-promising and you're under-delivering, that is a great way to turn a happy customer into an unhappy customer, whether it's the first sale, the second sale, or the third sale. The good news is that if you've provided great and valuable experiences to a customer for the first number of sales, they're more likely to brush off a mistake or something else as just some sort of weird anomaly. But with your new customer, you only get one shot to get it right, right? And so the thing I always like to say is that any business out there can get the first sale. We can all get the first sale. It's the great businesses that get the second, third, and fourth sale. Those are the ones that have truly got it dialed in. Now, how do you take that dissatisfied client and you make them a better client, a more valuable client? Well, the first thing is you do what you say you're going to do, right? And so you follow up when you say you're going to follow up. You reach out regularly. You get in touch often, and you don't just disappear into the night. You want to stay close to that client. You want to build those relationships. And again, to beat a dead horse, this is also a process, right? Retention and loyalty is a process, and it should be treated like that. So I have a program that I roll out with my clients called the Pick 3 process. And the Pick 3 process is so ridiculously simple and silly, but it works every time. And the first thing we do is I get a CEO that comes to me and says, well, we need better loyalty. We need to increase our retention. We need to increase our word of mouth. And I say to him, okay, well, what are you doing to help facilitate that? Well, my team's doing a great job. They're delivering. They're doing awesome things. No, what are you doing? Well, I do this. I try and talk to the customer. I said, no, really, what are you doing? And it turns out they're not doing much. So I give them a list of about 40 tasks. And I tell them every day you're going to do 3 of these. You're going to do 3 things here. And you're going to pick 3 customers and you're going to do this thing, right? Just pick one thing off the list and do it with 3 different customers. Tomorrow, I want you to repeat the process. And so I get the very top person in the organization doing this on a daily basis. And suddenly within a week, 2 weeks, sometimes days, he starts to say, or she starts to say, wow, like this is really resonating with our customers and people are really enjoying this. So then I say, what's your sales manager doing like this? What's your VP of sales doing? Well, I don't know. I say, get them to do this. And so that VP of sales starts doing the exact same thing. And then we roll it out to the next person. And soon we've got everybody engaging in this pick three process. It's so ridiculously simple, but it works. And clients say things like, wow, nobody's ever done this. Nobody's ever treated me like this. Nobody's ever, given me this sort of service. And, these are really simple tasks, but really a powerful process. And I call it the world's easiest and most simplest customer retention process because it's that easy. It's just a matter of doing these things regularly and consistently.
Yeah, I took along these lines, and this was a couple years ago now. Well, it must have been 3 years ago now. It feels like a lifetime. No, it just, we're recording right now in October of 2020. So, but I took a road trip around the country for 2 months, um, back when I was allowed to leave my home, and and uh, with the goal of just meeting three customers a day, and I just kind of kept going to different cities, and we basically emailed and reached out to all of our customers. Had our customer success people ask him, "Hey, do you want to meet with our CEO? He's going to be in your town, so um, do you want to schedule time with him?" And I just drove around the whole country for 2 months, not quite 2 months, maybe a month and 3 quarters, and really hit most, not all American cities. I didn't make it to the Pacific Northwest because that was really far away, but the Midwest and the Northeast and the Southeast and the South and the Southwest, and I just met with three customers a day and just sat down with them, talked to them about best practices, talked to them, asked them how things were going, kept it pretty open ended, tried to understand what they wanted in the future out of us better, and uh, and I'm imagining this is the kind of thing I found to be really valuable. Really got me in touch with our customers. Really got me inside their heads and let me understand what they were needing, so that I could better guide and steer the business in a way that they wanted it to be, and what based on what their needs were. Is this the type of actions, these 40 things that you're talking about doing?
uh,
What are you asking people to do? What are the types of things
so
in this list of 40?
so first I would ask you, and I think you said it was really valuable. So it was worth it, right? This endeavor was worth your time and your effort. Um, Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen the show Undercover Boss?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've heard of it. I think I saw
Okay,
like
so
half
you
an
so you know what
episode
I'm talking
once.
about.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
every show is exactly the same, and it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. And the other thing I like to say is, if you're in a company and you ever see the phone ring and it says undercover boss, you don't want to answer it because this is not a badge of honor, right? To be on this show, this means you're doing things really poorly, and they've identified you as somebody that needs these improvements. Well, every show is exactly the same, right? The CEO sits his boardroom down and says, guys, we got problems out there. You're not going to believe what's going on. But what I learned was amazing. We need to talk to our customers more. We need to help our employees more, right? We need to be providing more to them. And it's so ridiculous. And so what I get my clients doing is really simple things like that. I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to call 3 of your newest clients today. Just reach out to them, tell them you're the CEO of the company, and see how they're doing, see how everything's going. Or tomorrow, I want you to, pull out your notepad and I want you to write 3 handwritten notes to your customers and just send those out. I want you to reach out to 3 existing customers who have been with you for a long time and see how things are going. I want you to reach out to your 3 most valuable customers and see how they're doing. Today, I want you to reach out to 3 customers that left you for whatever reason, you don't know why. I want you to personally reach out and ask them why they left. And so I've got a list of 40 things here. And what I tell my clients is these are not set in stone, right? These were me sitting down one night with a glass of wine and said, here's 40 things that people should be doing. I tell my clients, add to them, scratch out the ones you don't want to do, whatever it is. Maybe 3 is too many. If you've only got a base of 12 clients, you're not going to do 3 actions a day every day because you're going to burn through your whole list in a week and you're not just going to keep repeating these things. It might be 1 a day. It might be 1 every 2 weeks, whatever it is, but we need to get habitual about doing these types of things that we're really not doing. And we say we're doing them, but we're really not. And so, I need to eat my own dog food. I need to write these things down. I need to put when I'm going to call my clients, when I'm going to reach out. There's so much leaning today on automation, right? Well, I can just set up this new AI program that's going to send off a personalized email every 3 months. Um, Customers see through that, right? Customers eventually see through it. They also see through this process that I'm defining. If the actions become rote and generic and lacking of empathy and emotion, they lose all their feeling. And so you got to make sure you are able to harness that and to build that into it, because that's, again, I think where true value is built. That's what clients appreciate. That's what turns an okay customer into somebody that's truly loyal to your company and says, gosh, nobody does things like these guys do.
Yeah, I think that's some fantastic advice that almost everyone could do. And our company is too small for me to be an undercover boss. We've only got about 70 people. If I showed up in one of our offices with a fake beard on, everyone would know.
But you could try it.
I could try. I did show up in a Santa outfit once, and people still recognize me, but it took a second. Could have been a lot of people under there. um, but So what about technology impacts? How has technology impacted these interactions with difficult customers? How has it impacted the way they can complain? How has it impacted the way we can react to complaints?
Well, from a sales perspective, anybody that's listening to this already knows this, but technology's made things way easier, right? It's made it way easier for people to complain, but it's also, from a sales perspective, it's taken away anything that the customer didn't have before. They already know the price. They already know all your competitors. They already know everything you're going to tell them. So one of the best things that we can do to confront that, there's a great book that was in the sales world many years ago that I loved, and I can't remember the title right now, but the concept was brilliant. And he said the most successful thing that you can do in sales, and this was written in the 80s, and it's still true to this day, is he said, get all the skeletons out of the closet and make them dance. You want to dance with those skeletons. You want to bring them out early. You want to address anything that the customer might be thinking, and you want to take it head on. And so if we already know that our customers have all this information, I think the best thing we can do is we can be overly upfront about things. We can say things like, now, you already know this, and I already know this. You know that we're the most expensive provider out there for this service, and there's a dozen competitors just like us. But let me tell you why or what makes us different, right? Really simple stuff, but addressing all those objections really early is super powerful, and I think it's more powerful today than ever before because we know customers can get any information they want at any time.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I would say that technology has really impacted the way we're able to interact with our customers. We've been able to automate. Well, I guess not automate, but the top 100 questions people would ask us, how do I do this? How does this work? How do you set this up? How do I change that? We've made little videos for every single one of those things. And and we have a team of people, it's about 10 people that their whole job is to answer inbound questions and emails and IMs that are usually all these same 100 questions, right? And so they can answer them very quickly because there's a templated answer for each one of these questions. And there's often like a little video or a link to a step-by-step, here's how you do it type web page. And that getting really being able to, like, if you went on our site right now and said, sent us an IM saying, hey, I'm a customer, here's my email, I don't know how to do this, you'd get an answer in like 5 minutes being like, here's how you do that, let us know if you have any other questions. And it's really fast and really efficient, but that's taken a lot of pressure off of our customer success team. So I call that the customer service team. And then the customer success team, who is more like the type of people who will get on the phone with them and set things up for them, work with them, it's freed their time up a lot because they're not dealing with all those smaller questions.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about in the book, Dealing with Difficult Customers, is along those lines. I call that process internal script booking. And it's not a traditional script, a list of scripts for salespeople to respond to objections. It's more exactly what you're saying. It's a script book of the most common concerns, challenges, issues, problems, things that our customers are going to deal with, and making sure that everybody has the playbook in front of them to be able to answer these things. And so I was working with a manufacturing company. They had 85 salespeople, and we did some simple tests on this just to see how they were responding to very simple service related questions. And what we found was they were all answering it in an entirely different way, and sometimes right, sometimes wrong, sometimes where did you get that answer from, because that's not even what we do. But that was the case, and so we had to develop this type of script book. What I like to do is help my clients build something like that, but make sure it's a living, breathing document, something that's going to be reviewed and looked at regularly. It can be adapted, it can be updated. We can bring in new concerns. And one of the other things that we do when I'm working with sales teams and we meet regularly, we'll ask a simple question on our biweekly sales calls, and we'll say something as simple as, did anybody hear anything really interesting and unique from a customer or a prospect over the past month or whatever it has been? And somebody might say, it's really weird, but some client was saying this. And then we'll say, okay, did anybody else hear something similar to this? And all of a sudden we start, yeah, you know what? It's funny. I had a client say the same thing and somebody else said this. And so we start to look and ask ourselves, does this warrant being added to the script book? Is this something that we need to bring in because this seems to be a common concern? Is this something that we now need to address more publicly, whether on our website, like you mentioned, with videos or content? And again, just constantly evolving to try and say, how can we deal with these customer issues head on? How can we address them before? It's almost like a great salesman, great sales guy, Jay Abraham, once said, I think it was Jay Abraham, might have been Gary Halbert, famous direct response copywriter, but he said, you want to enter the conversation that your customer is already having in their mind. And so if they can come to your site and they can come to start reading your materials, and they're starting to see their concerns dealt with right away before they've even asked them. Again, there's real power there. And I think, again, the small things that companies need to be working on with some more thought and some more gumption, and just really valuable stuff that I think often gets overlooked.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. What about when a buyer's expectations aren't being met? I feel like buyers just hate it when a product or a service doesn't meet what they expected it to do out of the gate. Are there any tricks or any playbooks or that you could see a salesperson applying to better manage their customers' expectations?
So if we're dealing with it again, we have to think about the two realms here. The first realm is let's be proactive about dealing with this. So all the stuff we talked about before, script books, addressing these challenges, that's the proactive stuff. Now this realm, you're talking about a reactive situation, which is the client's expectations haven't been met. So the two things that I help my clients do and I ask them to do is to look at any service issue really simply and ask yourself, is this concern valid? Valid means, the customer has a legitimate concern. Something was legitimately wrong with their order. They didn't get what they were promised, whatever it may be. Invalid would be, somebody getting everything that they ordered. The product was there on time, but for some reason, once it's there, just weren't really happy with what they paid for it, for example. Or it's like the example I give is somebody staying in a hotel in Times Square and then complaining the next morning that there was lights on all night and the room was loud and there was people around. You're in Times Square, right? So this is an invalid customer service issue. And then there's different ways to deal with both. So if it's valid, you want to address it and you want to deal with it and you want to work with the customer to make them happy. If it's invalid, again, we got to watch that we don't apply that condescending tone, but we want to say, I'm sorry that this wasn't what you expected. Next time, might I suggest a hotel in this area in New York? It might be more up your alley. Or, I'm sorry this wasn't what you expected. For future reference, how could we make it better next time, or what could we do differently next time? So invalid concerns, we want to address them, but we don't really want to address them, right? So we're not ignoring them or acknowledging the customer. We recognize something's made them uneasy, but it's not something we really need to deal with. Valid concerns we absolutely need to deal with, we need to take care of.
And if you're a sales manager trying to help your team better deal with either these valid concerns or even invalid concerns, how can a sales manager encourage their salespeople to practice to deal with these difficult customers?
Well, I mean, again, one of the concepts that we talk about in dealing with difficult customers is the lost art of role playing. And so role playing is such a powerful yet highly awkward thing that not many people like to do, but it's so extremely powerful. So I urge all my clients that have my VPs of sales that I work with, my sales managers, I urge them all to be role playing regularly, whether it was, a deal that they didn't get for whatever reason. Why don't we walk through the situation and tell me what happened, and let's see if we can role play it? Or if it's preparing for a meeting to present a proposal or present an offer, spend the 5 minutes to walk through. Because what happens is salespeople they believe that the customer is going to say this, and they're concerned that the customer might say this. And so if they truly believe that, and it's truly a concern, then it really makes sense to spend 3 to 5 minutes and actually practice how you're going to respond to it. And so the art of role playing is such a powerful yet highly underutilized skill and talent that I think we need to bring back into most organizations. Even two salespeople sitting across from each other at desks, it can be as simple as saying, I'm going to see this client later today, and I'm really worried he's going to bring up this situation we had last time with our delivery, and I'm just not sure how I'm going to address it. Could we just do a quick 30-second role play on that? And your colleague's going to say, okay, it sounds a little weird, but okay, let's do it. And you just do the exchange, and it helps you just formulate your ideas. It formulates what you're going to say, and so you don't have to be caught off guard. My business coach, Alan Weiss, he told me that uh, anytime I walked into a meeting with a potential buyer of my services, there's only a finite number of things that they can say to me. Whether I present them a proposal with price, there's only so many things they can say, which are, it's more money than I was expecting. This sounds good, Noah, let's move on. Or I just have a couple of questions about this. I should be prepared for all of those. And so these are the types of things that when I get together with my colleagues, we practice these things. And again, role playing can be so awkward, but it's so powerful. And I just think it's highly underutilized.
So, how can a sales process or a selling strategy be out of alignment with a buyer's decision-making process in a way that leads to a customer ending up being a difficult customer or a hungry hippo or a problem child down the line?
So I already addressed this briefly, and I'm just going to repeat it, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But again, if we rush a customer through the sale without addressing, their legitimate deep down concerns or their buyer anxiety, or we haven't spent enough time to actually build trust, because sales can be persuasive, and so we can persuade people to buy. The Robert Cialdini's Persuasion book, one of the most famous sales books of all time. I love what he says at the beginning, right? He says, like, you can use this book in very evil ways. You can persuade people to do things they don't want to do, and promise me you won't do it that way. He says something along those lines. Well,
Hmm.
sales can be persuasive, and the problem is, if we persuade somebody to buy with all this built up anxiety or unsureness, and again, lack of trust, whatever it may be, then we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And so I think we're far better off to slow down, and even slow down the sale and say, I know you're ready to move forward here, but I just want to make sure, have we really addressed everything that you're concerned about? Now, salespeople listening to this are probably saying, no, like, get the signature, right? Get the sale. You want to close the sale. You do. But again, like I said, everybody can get the first sale. We want to set ourselves up to get the second, third, or fourth sale. And this is how we set ourselves apart from the competition. We spend a little bit more time, if we have to make sure that we've addressed everything that the client's feeling. And again, things are going to come up. There's going to be problems, but the more we can do early, the better we're going to set ourselves up for later. So again, it's what can we do proactively instead of having to always act reactively.
And what about negotiations? Negotiations are notoriously difficult with difficult customers. What are some of your thoughts on navigating these waters successfully?
I would say, again, from everything that I've learned in my business, and keep in mind, everybody listening to this sells something different. We all sell different products. We all sell different services, but it all comes down to trust. And if we're into a late hour negotiation issue, then I've missed something. For some reason, you don't believe that the product is worth what it costs, or the service is worth what it costs, or you want to get it cheaper for whatever reason, or there's something else that we haven't fully addressed. And so again, I would treat negotiations as positively as possible. My mentor again taught me that that when somebody has a negotiation request, this is a sign of interest, right? They're interested. They want to move forward, but there's a few things still that are left unsaid. And so again, just treating it like a trusting relationship, answering what you can, being as honest as possible, dealing with these things, I think you're going to set yourself up for a far better situation.
All right. Well, the next section of the show is sales in 60 seconds. So quick questions, quick answers here. So in your opinion, what's the worst type of customer?
So the worst type of customer is the wrong one for your business. Okay. It's the one you took the money from, even though you knew that they didn't necessarily need your service, or they don't really fit your core values. They're not really an ideal fit or an ideal customer for your business. That's always the wrong customer.
What's your best customer retention tip?
There's nothing more powerful than the human touch. In a day and age of automation and technology and all the other great tools for us, you still can't beat the power of the human touch.
And what's the biggest mistake salespeople make when they're dealing with a customer?
It's moving on to the next sale too early and leaving that customer out to dry.
Is there any book or a tool that you would recommend that our listeners use or read to improve customer loyalty?
Yeah, I would shamelessly recommend that people listening reach out to me and get a copy of my Pick 3 program. I don't charge for it. It's free. I have a workbook that I give away, and
Okay.
I allow my clients to go and do this, and people that read my material to go and do this process themselves. And some end up working with me, but I give it away. You, Go do this. It's the most simple yet highly effective retention and sales and marketing tool that you can use in your organization. I guarantee it.
And we'll
Yeah, I
get
can
that
link
from
that
you and
up
put
for
that
you.
in the show
Cool.
notes so that people can access that easily.
That'd
Um,
be great.
what key skills do salespeople need to build successful relationships today in general?
They need to slow down, and they need to focus on value and focus on building that trusting relationship. I think the shotgun approach works to an extent in certain industries, but it's the ones, again, like everything we've talked about, that can really address those concerns, that can really set themselves apart from the competition, that are really going to thrive. And I think if you can just slow down and focus on value, you're going to win.
And as an actionable takeaway, what should the field salespeople listening today do as a first step to get started on dealing with their most difficult customers better?
Well, if they want to deal with their most difficult and demanding customers better, I think just getting in touch and seeing where the relationship stands right now. So if it is truly a difficult customer, and there's been problems or challenges in the past, pick up the phone and just reach out to one of them, and see if you can start to work through that situation. You can turn a difficult client into a great customer, into a truly valuable, loyal customer. Just takes a little bit of extra work. And so, start there, pick up the phone, get in touch with somebody, and see if you can make some progress.
All right. Well, I'm going to attempt to summarize the things that Noah's talked to today. A lot of stuff here, but first, we talked about how there's many difficult customers out there, and different types of difficult customers. And Noah categorized those different types in three ways. First, there were the hungry hippos, customers that want to just take and take in the form of discounts, extra services, etc. And there's also the problem children. And these are the difficult customers who keep complaining and are never happy, the squeaky wheels, etc. The last category is the customers who have real problems and actually need your help to find a solution. It's worth firing some of your very difficult customers who are creating toxic situations within your organization. Um, you can also try having a conversation with difficult customers to see how you can improve the relationship with them. Focus on the partnership in those cases that you would like to have together, and develop an understanding of how both of you can work together as professionals. Say something like, I sense something's wrong here. What can I do to make you happy, or to fix this situation, or to find a solution? Each customer brings much more value than just the first sale. It's a long-term relationship, and you have to nurture that relationship. It's worth building trust early on in the relationship with a customer, and this is a place where we frequently make a mistake. So don't rush to the close as a salesperson, but instead take time to address all of your customers' concerns, and avoid over-promising and under-delivering to minimize that expectation gap. Make sure that you hand off a sale very well between the salesperson and the customer success team, or whatever account management team will be managing that relationship going forward. Those handoffs are extremely important to long-term customer happiness. You can potentially turn an unhappy customer into a great customer by doing exactly what you say you're going to do, by following up on time, by getting back to them when they need you, and by communicating clearly and honestly with them. When a customer's expectations aren't met, you want to see how you can address them. There are different types of concerns. One type is the invalid concern, where you can say something along the lines of, I'm sorry, how can we make the experience better next time? Whereas if it's a valid concern, you need to really fix the situation and make sure it doesn't happen again. Take time role-playing these difficult conversations with difficult customers, so that as a sales team, or as an individual salesperson even, and that way you can prepare ahead of time so you're not caught off guard in the future. Well, this has really been just a fantastic episode, Noah. Where can our listeners read more about your work? How do they reach out to you? How do they get in touch with you?
So they can visit my website, which is noahfleming.com. There they should sign up for my Tuesday Tidbit newsletter, which is read by about 25,000 senior executives and sales professionals every week. So every Tuesday I provide a really tangible, actionable topic or a newsletter that they can actually take action on and do something with. So they should sign up for that. And then, of course, they can check out my books, which are available on Amazon or anywhere else books are sold. There's Evergreen, The Customer Loyalty Loop, and Dealing with Difficult Customers.
Excellent. Well, we'll get all that in the show notes. Noah, it's been fantastic having you on. This has been a great episode of the Outside Sales Talk. If any of our listeners work in field sales, you'll love Badger Maps, the #1 route planner that helps you sell 20% more and drive 20% less. And you can always get a free trial of Badger at badgermapping.com. If anyone can think of any other sales reps that would benefit from learning these skills that Noah so kindly shared with us today, spread the love and forward this on to them. Take care until next time, everybody.